Hey guys, it was good. Triple J boxing. What a fight! What an absolute bloodbath! Like, not only was Tszyu bleeding profusely from the head, like I thought they were going to stop it. Like pretty much right after that cut happened, I thought the doctor was saying no, we can't continue. But then if you look at Fundora, he was bleeding as well from the nose and the mouth profusely during the whole fight as well. So both guys were under duress. Um, I At first I thought the blood was all coming from Fundora before we seen the headbutt, or not the headbutt, but the blood coming from the head of Tszyu. I thought that was just Fundora's blood, because Tszyu started off very strong, landed good, snap Fundora's head back like a bobblehead. I remember, I think in the first or second round, but after that cut in the, what was it, the second round, I think it was. It totally changed, and you could just see the demeanor of Tszyu was like, I'm not going to say in survival mode, but in conserving energy mode. He wasn't as aggressive anymore. His body language looked off. He just wasn't as, yeah, he wasn't trying to put as much hurt on Fundora anymore. He wasn't as aggressive anymore. And I know the game plan of Fundora was great, and he learned from his mistakes. Usually, Fundora is more aggressive and fights more on the inside. He learned from it, which is good. So you have to give him credit there, but you can't dispute the fact that this fight could have went a different way if that cut didn't happen to the head. But it happens as boxing. Respect to Tszyu for sticking in there, not giving up. He tried. He fell short. Now, I thought it was still a close fight, to be honest. I thought if it was a draw, that would be okay. I didn't have Tszyu winning, but I think the scorecards were pretty good actually this time. There wasn't any nonsense, though a draw would have been okay too. But yeah, it's good to see Fundora get a win. Seems like a good kid, coming back from a knockout loss. I like when I see that, because I feel like in today's sport, today's boxing, a loss totally destroys a fighter's mentality now, because the fans and everybody think a loss is the end of the world. So they think the loss is the end of the world now. So that's why it's good to see a guy come back from a loss like the old timers. They would come back from a loss. Because I feel like today the mentality now is you have a loss, you're nothing now. If you're not number one, you're nothing. And that's why it's good to see a guy coming back not only from a loss but a knockout loss to win. But there needs to be a rematch. Tszyu could have possibly knocked out Fundora. Who knows, right? Or at least he could have won, because it was still a competitive fight. And I know Fundora had the bleeding from the mouth and nose too, so he had that too. But the demeanor of Tszyu totally changed after that cut. You can't dispute that. And but you got to give credit to both guys. One guy didn't give up. He was bleeding, like losing so much blood. Like, that's hard in itself. And then he couldn't really see. And the other guy was taking advantage of it, with a good game plan, learning from his mistakes, using the jab. The only thing I wish Fundora, that I was frustrated about, is Fundora's got power, and when he sits down on his shots, he has power, as we've seen in other fights. But in this fight, it was too far in between. He was very successful for the jab, but he wasn't sitting down enough on his punches that I would like to. I'd like to see him sit down more. When he did, you could see it had an effect on Tszyu, but he did not sit down on his jab enough, hard jab or hard punches enough, which obviously he was playing it safe, learning from his mistakes. Maybe he went a little too overboard in playing it safe, because I feel like he could have sat down more on his shots and maybe even did dish out more damage on Tszyu. But other than that, it was a good performance, very good jab. He stayed very composed, and it was a complete 180 from his previous performances where he just all out phone booth, all out war, willing to dig in the trenches. But he went all the way to the other side now, where I wish he sat down more on his shots. He did sometimes, and he did land very good. He landed some heavy shots on Tszyu that got his attention, but I feel like there was opportunity for him to sit down more on, considering Tszyu was compromised as well. And Tim Tszyu, though, he did what he could. He landed good hard shots still throughout the whole fight. But after that bleeding from the head, his spurts, his power shots, he still landed some, but they were too far in between, right? He landed a couple. He had a decent jab too, and he landed good power shots, but they're too far in between. He just wasn't himself after that cut to the head. You know what I mean? It's a rematch is needed, and I would still, if there a rematch happens, I would favor Tszyu to win the rematch, to be honest. If whatever the betting's odds are, I would bet Tszyu, because maybe he's the underdog now going into the second fight, which that's possible. The betting odds will do that, but I don't know. I think the betting odds maybe will favor Fundora, and maybe Tim Tszyu would be the underdog, but it would be such a slight underdog if he did. But to be honest, guys, I would favor Tim Tszyu in the rematch. I know. I just feel like I seen what he was doing. I seen like if that cut didn't happen, and not only the cut, but I feel like he can go back to the drawing board. He can say, "What did I do wrong besides the cut? What can I do? What can I do to neutralize his jab and stuff like that?" So I feel like he can regroup and have a better game plan as well. Because you can't take the fact away that the game plan of Fundora was brilliant, even without that cut. Maybe it probably would have been closer. Maybe Tszyu would have had the split decision win. Who knows? But we need a rematch. Now, does Fundora have a chance at winning the rematch? Of course he does. He won this one. And he can get better as well. What he did wrong, what he can improve on, right? And now he has confidence. But I feel like Tim Tszyu, though, he has a lot of potential to go back to the drawing board. And without that compromised cut on his head, I feel like he's bound to do better, right? But great night of fights, guys. I did not when I watched the Rolly Pitbull Cruz fight, I was like, wow, I feel like this is the main event, and the main event's probably not going to top this. Well, I was kind of wrong, because this fight was more competitive, and you could say, yeah, it was more competitive, and it was better, because I feel like the Rolly Pitbull, it just wasn't competitive enough. Even though Rolly did try, I just feel like the writing was on the wall there, and Rolly knew he was just, I'm not saying he was in survival mode, but you could tell he was doing all he could, but you knew it was going to be a matter of time kind of thing. I'm not saying he didn't have a chance, but this fight was more competitive, I feel like. And just the drama with the blood, and they had some back and forth as well. Like I said, the only thing I wish Fundora did was take advantage more of the situation and sit down more on his shots, like he usually does. But I can understand why he did it. He played it safe. Just next time, I feel like he should mix it up a bit more. But I mean, the jab worked good, and he kept his distance. Not only did he keep his distance, he kept the mental pressure on Tszyu too. It's not like he was running away or he was really far back. He stood his ground at the same time as kept a good distance. He stood his ground confidently and used his jab and landed good power shots when he did throw them. Like the looping shots around Tszyu's guard was good. Like the left hook around the guard, that was a very good shot. He landed very good hooks around the guard to the body as well. Tszyu landed good body shots as well too. They both landed good shots. It's just the jab is probably what separated the rounds, I would say. The jab was just so active. That's what won him the fight. Take away the jab, then it would be, or even cut the jabs in half, it would be probably a really close fight to score, right? It's just the jab was so important. But yeah, guys, I want there to be a rematch. We seen Errol Spence hop in the ring after, and we know Tszyu was kind of gutted. He still wants Crawford. He still wants, who is it? Who's the other guy? Did he say? Yeah, I think he said Spence too. But the thing is, he's got to fight the rematch if he can get it. And I know a lot of people are going to say, oh, look, karma's coming back to get you, or that's what you get for overlooking Fundora, because a lot of people were saying he was, because he was talking about fighting Crawford. and Spence and all these guys. He was overlooking him maybe. And that's the problem when you have a guy who takes 12 days notice. This happens, guys. This happens quite a bit in boxing. Not quite a bit, but most notably, the one that comes to my mind. It's happened quite a bit, though, I remember. But the one that comes to my mind is Pacquiao, short, like around like 10 days notice. I don't know exactly, but it was like 2 weeks notice against, who was it again? Ledwaba, I think. I could be wrong, but that was a, and look what happened there. I feel like everyone feels like, oh, this is going to be easier because I'm fighting Fundora, a guy who's probably not as good as Keith Thurman, or whatever the situation, right? You're switching up an opponent to a considered, usually a lesser opponent is usually the step in. In this case, Fundora would be considered lesser than Keith Thurman, and everyone thought that, and even, I bet you, even the team of Tim Tszyu and himself probably overlooked him, even if they weren't saying it, which I think they were saying it, though. He was talking about Crawford and Spence. I think he was. Even if they weren't saying it, they're thinking in their head, this is going to be easy work. I know a lot of people are going to be now criticizing, be like, oh, that's what you get, right? But no, the cut, you can't deny the cut and the bleeding in the eye was, his demeanor totally changed, guys. This needs to be a rematch. Tszyu can win the rematch. But respect to Fundora. It's good to see him win, get the belts coming back from a knockout loss. Respect to Tszyu for continuing to fight. That just shows you what kind of guy he is. It shows his character. He's not a quitter. And for all you guys who think Ryan Garcia is a quitter, Ryan Garcia is not a quitter. He lost to Tank. It was a body shot, which they're harder to get up from. And I know they're like, oh, but he got up. But he got up before 9. Because Ryan Garcia, if you know Ryan Garcia, when he gets dropped, he gets up right away. You've seen it against Campbell. He doesn't like to stay on the ground long. So that doesn't mean anything just because he beat the count. He was bloodied. He was dripping blood from the nose and mouth as well. And it's Tank. And he was dehydrated. So Ryan Garcia, I don't consider him a quitter from that. But because when other guys get knocked out from a body shot, they're not quitters. But Ryan, everyone shits on Ryan. But anyway, Tszyu is definitely not a quitter. We know that. And I hope, I don't know if do I want to see Fundora, Spence, or Crawford? Yeah, sure. That'd be a good, fun fight. But I feel like Tszyu deserves that rematch. Or at least down the line, he's got to get that rematch. Maybe Fundora chases because he'll want that paycheck. And if there's not a rematch clause I don't know if there was a rematch clause for this one. Maybe for the Keith Thurman there was. I don't know, guys. But I feel like I could understand why Fundora want to fight Errol Spence or Terrence Crawford. It would be a good payday. But he's got to give Tszyu a rematch after that then, if not right away. But great fight, guys. Respect to both guys. This is Triple J Boxing. Let me know what you think about the fight. And yeah, guys, take care.